Hello, friends. This is Christian. There we go. Getting situated here. I am the author of the Pivot Protocol. If you're watching this and seeing and hearing my voice for the first time, this is the weekly Q&A. I skipped it last week. I was going to do it from the islands, but because God knows I had to take a break. But actually I got tied up sailing every day. So in any case, I'm back in the saddle, and I feel much better for the break. So let me dive in. The goal of this is to make clear, if you're seeing this and you're not a student of the Pivot Protocol, you may struggle with some of this. I have to talk in some of the lingo that I use inside the protocol. This is not a bunch of new age made up lingo. This comes from the indigenous medical system that I stumbled upon, quite literally, when I got sick in the tropics in Central America about 20 years ago. Led me to a study of Asian medicine. The cradle of all Asian medicine is Chinese medicine. So that's my background. I have a license to practice Chinese medicine, and I still use that. I don't do a lot of clinical practice now. I do this. I do teaching and consulting for people, and I find that I can do a lot of good for people just this way, by putting my work and my material together and letting you work through it. Getting personal help from me in a clinical setting costs a lot of money back when I did that. So this is a much better way to leverage technology and try to help more people as you work out your own symptoms and figure out what's causing what and sort of solve it. All of that through the lens of the indigenous medical systems that I discovered and that I've taught and worked, and really I've been teaching since about 2005. I got my first teaching job. So in any case, that's what we're doing here. So I'm going to answer as quickly as I can a lot of the questions that folks have asked. I'm going to get to as many of them as I can, guys. It is getting overwhelming. I have quite a big list now sending me, and I'm happy to give this free information, but just understand there's a level beyond what I can do here. Obviously, I cannot teach you the entire protocol here on this free video, not only because it would be bad business for me, but it's just not possible. You need some time to go read and study and watch the training videos inside your exclusive member site area. And those of you who have done this, I kind of get from the feedback that you agree that there's some really valuable concepts and tactics and strategies and just insights on what causes digestive conditions that lead to something like acid reflux. You're not just going to have acid reflux. If you have acid reflux, you're going to have multiple other things going on. This is a great way to put your digestion back together, is just to solve all of those by learning how the whole thing works. Okay? So, here we go. Questions here. I'm going to start at this side. Yes, questions here. People suffering with sleep deprivation, sleep problems. Look, mostly this is going to crop up mostly when you see it a lot with autoimmune disease, but inside the Pivot Protocol kind of logic, this is your liver heat keeping you up. I talked about in a previous video this sort of circadian rhythm. Your liver is at the high tide. It's working as hard as it ever works during a 24-hour cycle at 2 a.m., which is why people pop awake, right? I do this still, right? My liver's plenty hot, and if I overwork myself, stress myself, right? Nobody's dealing with stress these days, right? If you're stressed and you're working hard and your body's keyed up, you're gonna wake up. You're gonna have trouble falling asleep, possibly, but you'll almost certainly wake up early. And as you get older, your body dries out and you have even harder time staying asleep. Insomnia is known as, right, the disease of aging. Because it becomes harder and harder to stay asleep. Your body is overheating more frequently the older you get. That's a normal thing. So there's a question here, two questions here, and this is for a kind of long-time student. She's very good about asking me good questions. So, hello, Lori. So, talked about trying to replace some pretty heavy-duty sleep medications with herbal help. This is something that I figured out very early on, and you've got to know this. If you're having trouble sleeping and you think, oh, I'll just go herbal, you need to know a few things about herbs before you do that. Because one of the herbs that everybody comes across right away, like, oh, I'll just fix my insomnia by taking valerian. Valerian is a really, really, really warming herb. It makes your body hotter. So it will help with one kind of insomnia, but it's not going to help you if your liver's overheated and your body's drying out and you're at a certain age and all the rest. It's actually exactly the opposite of what you want to do. So she's asking here about, what if I tried an herbal combo, valerian, chamomile, etc. My experience with herbs is no herb is going to be strong enough. If you're coming off, I'm not going to say what she's taking here for privacy reasons, but this is about as heavy duty a sleep medication as you can take. If you're trying to replace that level of prescription medication, there is no herb that's going to do that for you. There really isn't. I mean, you could have 5 or 6 shots of your favorite liquor and maybe pass out, but that too is very hot. You can't sedate the body enough with most herbs. You just can't, right? You'd have to have garbage bags full of chamomile or kava or any of these other herbs. So it's not a good trade-off. You can try it. I recommend for people who are struggling with sleep, rotate your sleep medications if you absolutely got to take something. The question here is about melatonin. Melatonin messes with your hormones. You do that at your own risk. Anytime you're playing around with the endocrine hormonal system, it's a little dicey, right? You got to be careful. I'm not saying what specific thing is going to come up, but your endocrine system, this is the master gland system of the body that's dealing with everything. We don't know what problems that's going to raise when you mess around with your endocrine system and the various hormones that regulate your bodily functions and cycles and all the rest. And also, if you've taken a lot of heavy-duty sleep prescription medications, you're really behind the 8 ball already. I think the honest answer is not the one that anyone wants to hear, which is get used to going without sleep. It's not the best solution, but it is probably better than taking heavy-duty sleep drugs because of what they do to your brain and how addictive they are. And also, they are also affecting your liver and kidneys, and it produces complications down the road. It's like, I kind of came to this conclusion. I had a period of my sickness, too, about 15 years ago. Well, I couldn't sleep at all. And I'm not a good sleeper even before I was sick. In my teens and 20s, I had long periods where I didn't sleep, and my body just didn't care. I performed as an athlete, and I did all the things I did. It just didn't matter to me. Maybe I shaved a few years off the end of my life, but so be it. You kind of make up your mind to quite frankly, to die bravely. If you're not going to sleep, don't worry about it. Like, find something to occupy yourself. Get really, really good at relaxing. I can relax so deeply, right, from all the nights that I've spent not sleeping. But taking medication over and over again, trying to sort of support or replace that with herbal therapy, they're not great options. Neither of them are really great. If you have to take something, rotate what you're taking. That's what I recommend. Take melatonin one night, take not valerian, take chamomile the next night, take kava. Try a few different things and see if you get a few hours of good sleep. Mostly it's sleep hygiene. A new training that I'm going to do is going to delve into this a lot deeper. I'm going to do a training for patient empowerment that's going to go way beyond just acid reflux and really delve into some of the things that I see people wrestling with that makes them stay up at night. Sort of it's like we have a moral crisis in the world today, which is that we know how to do a lot of things technically. We don't really know how to behave, right? It's a very interesting topic and subject that's dear to my life, and people really getting their lives together, and lo and behold, your physical health improves too. Okay, that's enough about sleep. In the masterclass, I talk about a probiotic food that's super, super good. I show you how to make this. There's 2 videos, one for a beverage and one for a specific kind of food that you can make that really helps your digestion. I think this is the thing that turned me around. It would have been about 2012 or 13 or so when I was still struggling to get the last pieces in place, where I still had to be very cautious with what I ate. And then when I discovered how to make my own probiotic foods, And my good friends in Guatemala, Jared and Michelle, taught me and showed me and also made for me, because they did it so much better than I could, really great probiotic foods, which in the tropics is kind of it's not an option. You've got to have these things in order to stay well. If you're from North America and you're living in the tropics, it's just so brutal on your system. But when you're putting good bacteria into your system, and you also get in the course, my rap on why you should not be taking probiotic capsules and how dangerous that is. How many people I've treated for taking probiotic capsules who caused autoimmune disease by taking those. And what the hell's in those things anyway? And when you make it as a food-based probiotic, you just do yourself so much good. So the question is, how much of this stuff should you be eating? As much as you can. Have it after every meal. Have it 3 times a day. The moment you make one jar and it's starts to ferment for you and develop all the good probiotic properties, start making the second one, and you should really be thinking that way. Okay, and the same thing with the beverage. I have multiple jars of this stuff going on. So yes, Alyssa, and happy Easter to you. Eat as much as you can. Eat it at the end of the meal. Okay, 3 bites minimum. Okay, 3 forkfuls or 3 spoonfuls. Question here from Val, burping and producing a lot of gas from tea. If this is green tea, that's totally unrelated. There's just no relationship between. In fact, green tea should really settle a lot of that. Remember, green tea is a big time diuretic. Now I have inside the program, I tell you where to buy good quality green tea. You can't just buy tea bags of green tea. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. That's like the sucker play for people who don't know tea. They buy tea bags. Like, don't buy tea bags. If you want legit tea, you got to know where to buy really, really good Chinese tea. And not just Chinese. I mean, the Japanese got great tea. There's other kinds. But tea from Asia is not the same as what you're buying in your grocery store. And I don't care. I mean, if you go to Whole Foods, too, it's not the same. I mean, that's the fad diet crowd. I'm not saying there's no good products in these places. I'm saying you have to know what to look for. And most of it's kind of... The people I turn you on to, they're my friends in San Francisco. If you contact these people and are willing to spend $20 to $40, you're gonna experience something with green tea, or my favorite, the oolong teas, which is halfway between green and black. That is unlike anything you've ever experienced with tea. It's not the same thing. Okay, it's a different level of what tea can do for you. It's a medicinal kind of experience and property. Gentleman Don asking here about if you take, there's a remedy I talk about as a special report inside the phase 1 material, and it contains a ingredient that is known to at least potentially cause problems for people who are taking certain kinds of medications. Especially we want to watch out for seizure medications and heart medications. What this is, that I'm not going to reveal to you what the thing is, because then everyone could just run out and buy it, and I'm doing a free video here, but this is a very, very useful antibiotic. And it's a very simple antibiotic that will help you. And a lot of people with reflux end up having yeast infections and things like this. And there's no way to get rid of it, because if you take another antibiotic, you're just going to have more yeast after that, right? So you have to kill it in a very gentle way that helps your body start to then recover, right? So you can take some of this substance. However, right, it's actually an extract from a fruit and the seed of a fruit. And this specific ingredient can sometimes interfere with the absorption of your medications. So like blood pressure and cholesterol medications. The answer I gave to Don's question is always be careful. Always, always be careful. What happens is it blocks what's called coenzyme P450. And then you also have to know something about therapeutic index. The therapeutic index is how much of a medication is absorbed into your body. Like when you take some kind of statin drug, for example, a certain amount of it is already calculated not to go into your bloodstream. And so because cytochrome P450, which is a enzyme in your liver binds the medicine. So you take 10 milligrams, but only 3 milligrams actually get into your bloodstream because your liver binds the medication, and that's normal, and they know that that's going to happen. When you take your blood pressure medication and you've had potentially, right, some of the extract from this fruit, then what can happen to you is now 9 milligrams are running around your blood stream because the medication was not blocked by the liver, and a ton of it got into your bloodstream, and now you have problems because your blood pressure medication or your statins are thinning your blood, and now you're bleeding internally and all the rest. I mean, this is the potential danger. I did a presentation at Mercy Hospital on this in 2012. Okay, we answered all their questions. I've prescribed herbs for many, many, many people over the years, many of whom were, right, of an age where they're taking not heart meds. I never went near heart meds, but blood pressure medication, obviously, medication for what's called hypertension, okay? That's your blood pressure meds. Cholesterol, okay? Statin drugs, of course, are like the most commonly prescribed for people over a certain age. And they can be very helpful. I mean, they can be, right? I never, ever had a patient have a bad reaction. That's the honest truth. And I always told them what to look for. If you feel off, if you get ringing in your ears and you get some weird kind of reaction, then you know you need to back off. But if you're gonna have a reaction, the only medications that really you absolutely have no margin for error is if you take seizure medication or heart medication that keeps you alive. In which case, don't fool with it at all, because if you're wrong, you could be dead wrong. Okay. In this case, with blood pressure and cholesterol meds, Don, the honest answer is, use your smarts and go for it. And there's generally not enough danger not to do it, and you do not need to take the substance that the antibiotic that I tell you about that you can take to treat yourself if you think you have yeast, if you maybe have some inflammatory things going on in your esophagus especially, and most people with reflux do, right? That if you take this, it really is so safe, and it's such a low level of toxicity. The idea that this is going to interfere with your medications is really, really minuscule. It's really, really small. So my advice is go for it. Take a couple heavy doses. Try to knock out any possible yeast. You don't need a lot of it, right? You don't need to take it day after day. Just take it for a few days and see how you feel, taking your blood pressure meds and cholesterol meds as usual. If you have any kind of weird reaction or weird symptoms, or you think like, oh, I feel off, then obviously stop it. If you're in trouble, get to a doctor, okay? But that's very, very unlikely. It is basically safe to do, okay? You've got to be smart, and I'm not giving any personalized advice here, okay? I'm legally unable to do that. So don't take this as I'm sharing general thoughts and also my career experience with you guys so that you know whether there's a real danger here or not. Basically, the danger is very small, okay? But make your own decisions based on what I'm telling you here. And obviously, if you're really concerned, talk to a doctor. Your doctor's not going to know about this substance. That's the problem here, is that we're up against, on the one hand, your doctor doesn't know the answer to the question. On the other hand, I have to tell you that there probably is some small risk, but it's very, very minor. Quite frankly, the idea that you're going to have a horrible reaction to something like that it's not zero, so we have to say that, but it's pretty minuscule. Okay, and also there's not a big, robust body of literature because, again, modern medicine hasn't studied this thoroughly enough to come to a conclusion about it. Okay, so we have to piece together the logic that makes the most sense. A lot of people asking about food combinations. I swear to you, I'm getting to it. I'm teaching. I only do really because I only have time for about one video a week. So thank you, and be patient, and I'll continue to talk about how to combine foods. But what you really need to understand is when you eat something, your body will tell you, in a sense, it will tell you, is it hot? Is it cold? Is it dry? Is it damp? What symptoms did you develop after eating that? So bananas tend to be very drying. Okay? In fact, you can stop diarrhea with bananas. You give it to kids when they got loose stools, right? Avocados, pretty damp, right? Avocado is almost like eating butter. It's a very, very healthy vegetable fat. It's really wonderful. when I live in Central America, I actually have about 7 or 8 avocado trees. They're raining down half the year, so that I have 5, 6, 7, 8 avocados in the kitchen at all times. We eat them at every single meal. So because I love them, right? They're wonderful. It's like a superfood. So eat them, right? Eat as many as you can. Bananas, go easy. If you got dryness, go easy, right? It's not like you can't overdo. Avocados are kind of damp, but again, it depends what you're combining with. I never eat them I never just scoop them out and eat them with a spoon. I always put them on bread or mix it with my eggs or something. So, I tend to think that they're okay. They are dampening, but they're very nourishing. They're very, very nourishing, okay? If my nose starts to run immediately after eating a food or while I'm still eating it, is that a clear sign that my body's reacting to that food, or is it coincidental reaction from a previous food? Well, I don't know, because, when did you eat the previous food? I don't know. Usually if you're going to have, what you're describing is an autoimmune reaction. When you get sneezing, when you get mucus, when you break out in hives, right? Whatever it is, that's the food that's in your mouth right now. You just put it in and your body reacted. That's an allergic reaction. An allergy is an autoimmune reaction. Allergies are autoimmune disease. That's what that is. Your body is hyped up and your immune system is freaking out over something that really set it off, that's really not that bad or dangerous for you, but your immune system is way, way overreacted. It's like on red alert. It's hyper-reactive. That's what an allergy is. It's an autoimmune response. Okay, so yes, if you get runny nose immediately when you eat something, that's a sign that your body's having an autoimmune reaction. Gas, same thing, right? Usually that's an autoimmune reaction. If you eat something and 5 seconds later, right, you're full of gas and breaking wind everywhere, you know that that's something that's triggering the intestinal bacteria inside you to go absolutely ballistic. Okay, it's feeding something inside you that's not good, and now you're bloating, and the bacteria is overgrowing and all the rest. Asking here about peanut butter. I had a protein bar that was mostly peanut butter, and my nose started running before I even finished eating it. Well, peanuts are notorious, as they're listed everywhere, right, for people with allergies. Why? Has nothing to do with peanuts. It has to do with a microscopic fungus that grows on peanuts, and several other foods are like this, but especially nuts are just, usually because they sit around in bags in warehouses after they're harvested, and they grow fungus, right, sitting there, especially in the moisture, right? That's perfect environment for fungus. It's very microscopic. You don't see it, but it's incredibly toxic to your liver, and then your body freaks out, right, because it's essentially like eating poison, and then you have an allergic reaction. Peanut butter is famous for that. If you're getting that reaction, you have two options: quit eating peanut butter, or try another brand and see if it's, see if you can buy something organic, see if that makes a difference. Sometimes it does. Okay? People here writing in, at least a few people, about weight loss. I talk about my principles of my Spartan diet. And I mean, there's a lot of reasons that it's a good idea to go Spartan. Now, remember, I'm talking to people who are really sick here. If you're really, really sick, go Spartan. And the more Spartan, the better. And if you're hearing this for the first time, it's like the terrible truth is, go hungry. Sometimes just go hungry. When you don't know what else to do and your body's just freaking out, and you got reflux and the gas and the bloating and your throat's burning and and on down the line, whatever your symptoms are that makes you absolutely miserable, stop eating. Just don't do anything. Go hungry. Go hungry for 12 hours, right? And let your body come back down. Because the tendency is like, okay, well, now that I'm freaking out, I'll go eat some yogurt or, go have something else, and then you just make it worse. You're digging the hole deeper. The first thing is stop digging. And so I tell people, I'm not a fan of fasting. I'm really not. People go, I do a 5-day fast. Well, what for, right? You don't need to fast that long, okay? If you're doing Ramadan or, you have some other reason, morally speaking, a religious kind of motivation for it, more power to you. But, for health purposes, there's no reason to be fasting that long. You can induce very odd states of mind if you fast, and there's no doubt that that's an interesting thing to do, but as a regular practice, look, if you're going to go hungry overnight. That's why we call it breakfast. That's break fast. You're breaking your fast. If you're going to break fast in the morning, then go hungry. Go hungry. Look, especially when I was really working hard, I worked on cruise ships for several years, and I mean the rigor of the schedule is enormous. I mean, you're talking for about 10 to 12 hours a day. It was just insane on our busy days. Otherwise, it's a very pleasant gig, and but I would stop eating. I would have a massive breakfast. I would have maybe a piece of fruit or two after my cup of tea to wash down my breakfast. And what food too, boy oh boy. I get to eat smoked salmon every breakfast and all the rest. And so you're very well fed. So I could eat a gargantuan breakfast, work all the way till 3 p.m., take a break at 2 p.m., take a break, come back to work at 3, right? Or go eat at like 2:30, 2:45, and I was done eating by 3 to 3:15, depending on my patient load. And I was done. I didn't eat again until 7 o'clock the next day, or 7:30. And I mean, that's a long time. That's about an 18, whatever that is, 19, 18-hour, right? 17-hour fast. That's a good move, you know? If you can do that, if you can put that many hours into, taking a break from food, that's when you do it. Because you sleep better anyway. If you make your body hungry, your body will, so back to, right, the sleep problem. Go hungry. It's one of the best ways to sleep. Stop eating around 4 o'clock. Don't eat anything. Water only after 4 p.m. I mean, it's brutal when you first do it, but you'll see that it gives you so much time to recover. Now, the question here has to do with, I can't afford to lose weight, so I can't go hungry for too long. Fair enough, but as I said to this person asking this question, the weight loss thing has to do with the medications that you're taking. I'm not going to say what that is again for privacy reasons, but realizing that you've got to get off medications that also cause you to waste away and burn up stuff is much more important in your situation, okay, Lori? But eating foods that keep weight on, it's like half the answer is don't worry about it. Half the answer is get off medications, and then maybe some small part of it also could be you're doing enough right things. If you can get sourdough bread and some good stick to your ribs kind of fare, you're doing everything that you need to do, and let your body be whatever weight it needs to be. If you're wasting, right, it's probably because of the other medications. Okay, unless you have an actual serious illness that's causing, people with cancers and all kinds of age-related diseases will waste away because, right, again, whatever's inside you is burning stuff up. I gather that that's not going on with you based on our discussions. But, protein, like you said, you used to rely on cheese, yogurt, nuts. All of that stuff is really hard on the spleen. It's very hard to digest nuts. It is very, very damp to be eating yogurt, which is full of sugar and all kinds of crap. And it's dairy, and you can't digest dairy anyway. Cheese, ditto, right? Cheese is almost indigestible to people with reflux. It's as damp as a food gets. A block of cheese is the dampest food you can possibly eat. So if you're burdening your spleen in that way, that's not a good move. So again, the weight management thing, or keeping weight on, by the way, I'm the same way. I told in my story, I went down to 147. I'm just over 170 now. So that's like 12, 13% of my body weight. I think I'm still putting on weight, actually. I'm moving into a kind of nice place in my life where I just went to the islands, went sailing, and, I can relax a little bit because my clinical practice was so demanding that I get to do this now, and it's kind of pleasant for me. So it's like, don't worry about your weight too much. And worrying by itself can make you a little nuts for digestion, and it seems to me that it's not an issue of what you're eating to keep weight on, and that you're eating well enough, right? But that there's probably other reasons that you're losing weight if you're still losing weight, okay? All medications tax the liver. All medications overheat your body. All medications produce dryness. There's really no exceptions to this. If you're taking prescription meds, these are very concentrated. Your liver has to sort out what's in that thing, and it's going to overheat your liver. It is, right? And when the liver gets hot, your intestines get dry. That's why so many people, right? So many people who take multiple prescriptions end up with just intractable dryness in the intestines. And the liver is so hot, you can't do anything about it unless you're going to, work your way off medications. You have to mitigate it as best you can, right? The best thing to do is, try to work your way off them. Valerie asking, what if you seem to have both dryness and dampness at the same time? I talked about this. It's in another video. It's more or less titled, if you have one, you're going to have all four of them, right? Or you're going to have more than one. Where there's one, there's more than one. If you have dampness and dryness at the same time, that's not a rare phenomenon. That's normal. That's a normal problem. Let me explain. In our little functional model of how the body works, right? I talked about this before. The heat from your liver goes up. So you tend to have dryness in the upper part of the body. Dry throat, dry eyes, dry lungs, maybe dry cough, dry. Okay? And that's more so with aging. Dry skin, dry hair, everything gets dry as we age. Partly from heat, but partly because we just dry out as we age, right? You've been alive longer. The heat from your normal metabolic activity is drying out your tissues, and lo and behold, you're dry. Now, dryness that's deep enough in the body, and when your liver's hot enough, you can also have dryness in your intestines. The way you know that, the number one sign symptom is dry stools. Okay? You get stools that are dried out into little pellets, and maybe you can't even move your bowels, but when you do, you have very, very hard, dry stools, usually in little balls. Okay, that's intestinal dryness. Now, so that's dryness in its pure form. But not many people have dryness in its pure form, because very often what happens is, even if you have dry intestines, you'll have various bouts with loose stools, sticky stools, dampness, damp stools, signs of dampness also affecting your intestines. I have this from time to time, okay, still, because it's hard. Once you're past a certain age, it's hard to mitigate and spread fluids through your body evenly the way you were when you were 18 years old and everything was kind of new and worked well, right? As you get older, it's harder to maintain that exact balance between having proper mucus and fluids, good healthy fluids in your body that don't accumulate and build up into dampness, that spread evenly, that you don't get overheated and dry out your body, right? You don't eat something that overwhelms your spleen that produces a lot of mucus and dampness. So the normal thing is dampness goes down into your lower abdomen, into your lower intestines. Dryness happens above because heat dries the upper part out and dampness is heavy. You eat something and it's like mud in your intestines and then it just sits there inside your guts causing problems. That's normal. That's a normal problem. Now, I will talk in another video, I promise, it's on my list. I talked about how to time your treatments. You want to warm the spleen in the morning and get yourself going for the day, and you want to cool the liver off at night, and how to do that, right? I talk about this in the masterclass. But also, you have to mitigate between dampness and dryness as well. There's ways to do that to nourish the inside of the body without overcoming it with dampness and to help moisten the dry quality. And there's also ways to then, of course, to moisten dryness without causing and overcoming the spleen with dampness. But there's also ways to drain dampness out without making dryness too much worse. There's no easy solution to it. It is a balancing act. Okay? In other words, you don't eat a bunch of super damp foods to moisten your dryness. It doesn't work that way. You have to very gently, in a very balanced way, without causing problems, moisten dryness and then also drain dampness, dry dampness out. Okay, one of the best things to do for this is actually herbal formulas. That's not in this program. I do that when I consult with people personally. I'm starting to do that with some of the people in the Pivot Protocol. Some of you wrote in and asked, hey, I would like to have a phone consultation too. fine. If anyone's interested in that, just shoot me an email, info@pivotprotocol.com. It's not something I can go into here. You have to understand how incredibly complex the whole Chinese herbal system is, and it is the best herbal system on the planet by far. It's so thorough and it's so elegant. It's so uniquely designed to treat exactly what people have and nothing they don't. So there are ways to treat dampness and dryness in one formula. Last couple here. Robin asks if my books are available to buy. Well, no, not for this. I mean, the only book that I have is the material. It's print material inside the Pivot Protocol member site, member page area. You can download that print material if you're a student. If you're not, I did write several books, but they are not there, and they are available to buy, but none of them are focused on reflux specifically. So in the way that you're asking, yes, my books are available to buy, but if you're looking for information on reflux specifically, this is where it's located. You have to get to it inside the members area. Alyssa here, throat irritation. This was a good question, and I'm happy to answer this. Burping and throat irritation. I taught 5 classes today, so I did a lot of work. Here's the rub. You have 3 areas of the body. The heart and lungs are the upper burner they talk about. The digestive system is in the middle burner, and then your sexual reproductive fire is in the lower burner. If you think of it this way, it makes sense. It's like we have sexual desire, we have a desire to eat, and also your heart and your lungs pretty much got to be working all the time, because if either one of them stops for more than a minute or so, you're dead, right? A few minutes, maybe at the outside. Otherwise, you're very seriously damaged. So you have these heat centers in the upper, middle, and lower. And if you think of it this way, heat, when you have to produce, like I'm talking now 37 minutes and 12 seconds, when you talk, and you talk for 5 classes, like I did it, when you're consulting with, 25 patients in a day, one after the other, and doing 2 seminars, you're exhausted from that. You become empty, and it takes a ton of heat. You're upbearing. Your voice has to be produced and pushed outward this way. So they talk about this. They talk about the word is effusion. You effuse your function. Your function is effusing outward from your body. Right now I'm gesticulating and I'm very animated, and I'm effusing my function out of my body. Okay, whereas when you're asleep and you're knocked out at night, all the function goes back inside and does its best work to try to fix you, right? Repair your tissues and do some quick maintenance overnight so that you wake up refreshed. Okay, so if you talk for 5 classes, there's no question that having a sore throat and irritation and burping and all the rest, that's enormously taxing, especially if your pivot is out of whack and not working well. It puts a hell of a burden on the heart, the lungs. The heart and lungs get their function from your spleen. So yes, there's no doubt, and you're going to be tired, and that's going to put your body into that hyperactive state. So it's not that throat irritation is specific to the liver, although the liver is certainly involved in this. Okay, your throat has mostly to do with your lungs, but your liver and lungs have a relationship. Your heart and your lungs have a relationship. Your liver and your heart have a relationship, and all of this can only be replenished and really work well if your spleen recovers and you have good, strong, healthy digestive fire. And my guess is that that's probably not happening. I know what you're going through to repair your main pivotal organs. So keep with it. Okay, you're making some progress, and that's great to see. Just keep working. You'll figure it out. Okay, you'll figure it out if you think about it this way. How much of probiotic food number 2 do I eat? I said several bites will be more than enough. Okay, and do you just leave it on the counter? Yes, but seal it up, like close it, and let it continue to do its thing, and then just open and eat on a daily basis. Hi Christian, you got YouTube videos. I'm suffering. I have bad gurgles in my throat. I can't burp properly. And talking about sort of disruption of menstrual cycle. Yeah, when the body is really worn down and overwhelmed, women will start skipping cycles. I mean, obviously, you have to rule out that you might be pregnant, right? You don't want to fool around with that, because if you lose a pregnancy, that's something that can really affect you psychologically. So obviously, do the right thing and make sure you're not pregnant. But if you know for a fact that you're not pregnant, then yeah, especially when the body gets dry and worn down, you're fatigued and also dry, then for women, right, the body will essentially refuse to give up any blood. It's like a defense mechanism. It's a survival mechanism to make sure that it's like, gee, the body's so tired. Can we really lose any blood this month? So it's actually a good thing when that happens, because it's your body's way of protecting itself so that it doesn't make the body weaker and even more dry by losing blood. But yeah, I mean, I can't answer any better than that, Elise. I don't know any other specific symptoms, but yeah, you probably do need to cool your liver. You're going to need to build your spleen. You're going to need to harmonize your intestines, and you're probably going to need to moisten dryness. That's how you do it, right? That's what we're talking about here. That's what the Pivot Protocol teaches you to do. Val asking for herbal medicine. Yeah, there's great formulas for cooling the liver. Usually we don't just use a liver cooling formula. That's not enough, right? That's what beginning herbalists do. They try to do something very simple and then they make something else worse. You have to use really complex formulas to do this. That's the honest answer. Asking about eggs. I'm a big fan of eggs, right? I eat eggs all the time. Mostly I like them as soup. Dairy. I'm not a fan of dairy. I don't think most people. There's one way you can eat dairy and get away with it, and in that way, I actually have some dairy in the fridge right now, but I only have it this way. And so, if you're in phase 1, you already know about this. If you're not, I just encourage you. If you're watching these videos, thank you for checking out the channel. I'm really happy to give this free information. But the truth is, if you're watching this and you haven't bought the Pivot Protocol, what are you waiting for? If you're suffering with acid reflux and it's not going away, you really don't have a choice. You're going to have to figure this out yourself. It's partly why I did this course. I know that there's millions of people who have no possibility of fixing their digestion. You're going to go back to the doctor over and over and over again, and it's not going to get any better. And in fact, you're going to get worse, because you're going to get one prescription after another. And there's a time element here for all of us. Like, the clock is ticking for all of us. So if you're not going to get well this year, when are you going to do it? Because it's not going to be easier next year. And you have to really factor all of that in. And the truth about digestive illness in modern medicine, you're not going to get a lot of good help from modern medical doctors. Not for acid reflux, not for IBS, not for gluten sensitivity, not for autoimmune disease. All of our modern medicine is not aimed at that and untying that knot. You get a treatment, but it makes this part better, but it makes the other part worse. So, what do you do about that? If that's the situation we're in, you figure out how to heal yourself. And that's what I'm teaching you here. I hope you guys enjoy these videos. Keep sending me your questions. I have a whole slew of new questions already, so this will be the Friday the 26th video by the time you see it, if I can get it posted in time. And I will be working on the next question. So keep them coming. Thanks very much, and good luck to you all.